Well, again, thanks for joining. Today we're going to be talking, the subject, as you might have seen, is films from the vault. I took a bunch of movies that I've been working on the last couple weeks and put them together, and it's kind of a potpourri. Most of it's going to be about the 64 World's Fair, New York. But we're going to start with going back to 1948, an event called the Chicago Railroad Fair. And if you're a Disney type person, the fair was a very big event in Disney history. Walt had been overworking himself. His doctor told him he really needed to take a vacation. And Ward Kimball, one of the nine old men, master animator, got a call from Walt. Hey, how would you like to go with me to Chicago to the Chicago Railroad Fair? Walt was a big train fan. Ward was a big train fan. And Ward later wrote that he was absolutely thrilled to get the chance. First of all, he gets a chance to be with his boss for a week or two and, could push all his pet ideas. But he also really wanted to just spend time talking with trains with somebody that really liked trains. So they took the trip across the country, of course, by train. And a lot of the times when they're on the train, the engineers would invite Walt and Ward up to the cab. And you can actually find some of Ward's home movies online that he took. And Walt's having a great time running the train, blowing the whistle, ringing the bell, enjoying it. When they got to the fair, the same sort of thing happened. The organizers of the fair recognized Walt, invited him to come, and they had a big train show. Wheels of Rollin'. We're going to be seeing some footage of that. And they got to come in between the shows and run the trains. Ward wrote later that there was a train called the DeWitt Clinton, which was the one of the first steam locomotives in New York, running up in the Albany area. And it was actually not the original DeWitt Clinton, but it was a replica that was built for the Chicago Columbus Exposition of 1893 or 1898, whenever it was. And it had been sold to Henry Ford in 1934, but with a proviso that he let it go to events like the Chicago Railroad Fair. So they got to run it. Ward said it was one of the highlights of his life, getting to run such a famous train. After they went to the event, and we're not going to see Walt. I've looked for him in the film. We're not going to see him today. But after the event, they came back to California, and about 1 to 2 months later, Walt announced that he wanted to build an amusement park across the street from the studio so he could have a place to run a train. Well, it turned out not to have enough space for what he wanted to do, and the city fathers also came back and said they were not going to allow a honky-tonk sort of event to be built in their genteel town. So we ended up with the honky-tonk event that we know today as Disneyland. But it's really interesting to see how Walt made the trip to Chicago, and that really got him going, seeing that he could have fun with trains, and let's go build a big train set. So this film, again, 1948, it's silent. I've set it to some music, might make some comments during it, but it's a kind of interesting footage of time back in 1948. And we'll start with that. So let me start with screen sharing here. Media player, optimize for video clip. And hopefully this will get us going here. So 1 second. Come on, go over here and play. So there's the General. We've seen that at a number of World's Fairs. We get to see a modern diesel locomotive that's going to be changing the case of railroading. And here's the show. Hundreds, a cast of 220 with 100 horses. It was set up against the lake, and they had quite a show. I have seen some 16 millimeter footage. This is, of course, is all done from 8 millimeter. They recreated some famous events and famous trains. Some of them were recreations, like the DeWitt Clinton, we'll see in a moment. Others were real trains that had been restored, refurbished for the event. Meanwhile, on the lake, people were jetting by in their motorboats and sailboats. Here's the Deadwood Clinton going by, recreated coaches. It's now in the possession of the Henry Ford and is a prized part of their collection. You can go see if you visit the museum. Kind of interesting here, a race between the horse-drawn train and the steam-driven train. The horse will win for the foreseeable future. You can see the guy shaking his fist at the horse. But as the the mechanical horses got stronger and more effective, the horse loses out. You can see those coaches are on springs, so they would try to give you a more gentle ride as you went down. The trains have taken a giant leap up into the future. You can imagine Walt Disney just having great fun being able to run these trains in between the events. Of course, the Indians didn't like the train so much, so they attack it. But here comes the cavalry to the rescue. You can see why they needed 100 horses for the show. And a big, big moment in railroad history, the Golden Spike, Promontory Point. The nation's finally linked together by one railroad that will go all the way from the east to the west. Keep watching this thing, and a OSHA would have a fit today with people riding on the trains like that. To see how well attended the shows were. I can only imagine how large the backstage area had to be to accommodate all these trains. And they had antique streetcars, horse-drawn carriages. We're going to see antique fire engines, all sorts of different things about transportation. They go to their fire. And an automobile makes its appearance. streamlined trains. Modern day is just about reached the fair. And you could get rides on other pieces of equipment around the fairgrounds. That's our visit to Chicago. Now, the same fellow that took that trip then went off to New York, and we're going to go visit New York City in 1948. Might get a kick out of this one because it goes up to the top of the Empire State Building and has a great view from up there. The best part's going to be near the end when we get to the lights of Times Square. So let me start this one here for you. At the very end, we go and visit Franklin Delano Roosevelt's estate in Hyde Park, New York. It's smart to be thrifty, the famous logo from Macy's department store seen down below. Don, if you could do me a favor, I forgot to mute everybody. If you could just find the mute all button for me, I'd appreciate it. Oh, and then you can unmute me, please.
Will do. 1 second. Participants. Why? I usually find this faster. Where is it? I'm just gonna get these individual.
Yeah, I found it. Let me do it.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm just knocking them down individually.
I got it. So again, we're up at the top of the Empire State Building, a little cafe up there, 1,050 feet above New York City, and the folks are enjoying some snacks up there before they go back outside. And we're now taking the Circle Line tour, so we got a nice view of all the piers that were in Manhattan. Some Circle Line boats. These other boats here, paddle wheelers, would take you up the Hudson River to places like Bear Mountain. Was a very popular place to go to get out of the city. You can also get an appreciation and see all the smoke from the ferries. You can see smoke from incinerators, smoke from all sorts of things. The air in New York was not good even back in 1948. Don't know what liner that is. I was not able to read the name on it. This ferry here, the Elmira, it's interesting that one time the Lackawanna Railroad ran a fleet of 5 ferries across the river, and they were just one of several railroads that did this, bringing people back and forth. During this period of time, they were bringing something like 20,000 people a day across the river. By the time they ended, I think it was around early 1960s, they cut the ferry service. They were lucky if they could get 2,000 a day because they had now put the Hudson tubes under and people were coming over by train. But those ferries were a major part of getting people back and forth between New York and New Jersey. So the skyline's quite different. Obviously, very few of the buildings of southern Manhattan are there. That's a car float. Again, another railroad barge that they would put train cars on, drag them across the river and unload them on the other side. That was the kind of the New York that I remember growing up with, in the tugboats everywhere, barges everywhere, boats going back and forth. So a very, very busy harbor scene, much, much busier than it is today. The Brooklyn Bridge. Another bridge we'll be seeing in a moment that I don't know the name of, that if people do know, if you could throw in the chat, I'd appreciate it. Brooklyn Navy Yard, again, this is 1948, so these ships have come back from World War II. Aircraft carrier being repaired, still a busy shipyard, still undoing so much of the battle damage from the war. Con Ed power plant. Smokestacks everywhere. This film took a fair amount of work. It's starting to get what they call vinegar syndrome. Yeah, if anybody knows this bridge for sure, please let me know. So the film required quite a bit of cleaning. It was very, very dirty, but luckily with the computer, you can do all sorts of things. And this is grainy. It's just kind of interesting. He's going to be getting these models going. They look so angelic. They've got their hymn books. They're singing with their candles and everything. He's posing in just the way to get whatever picture he wants. But it's kind of interesting that as soon as he stops, what happens. So again, pose for the picture, look angelic. Okay, take a rest. Out come the cigarettes, out come the drinks. Let's unwind. It was a great photo shoot, but every one of them almost pops out a cigarette right away to just unwind. So don't know what they were posing for, but they were having a great fun doing it. And now the lights of New York. It's interesting. So many beers and things like Rupert, Make Mine Rupert. There's a big ad up here for Chevrolet. You can see the logo going up, and in front, Kinsey blended whiskey. Lots of movie theaters and shows in town. Big sign there for the Automat, if everybody remembers going to the Automat. Pepsi. Rita Hayworth, Glenn Ford. Now this is Bond Clothers. You had clothes for men, and we're going to pan over and see clothes for women. A ticker tape with news going down below. I don't know what the Nation Space DE is up there at the top. Here's the apparel. So you had clothes for men, but apparel for women. Miss Youth Form, your slip will not slip, and it will keep up under your skirt there. You can see the advertisement. Slips cannot ride up. So lots of the electronic billboards, they had worked out that technology quite well. And now this just the footage in there I didn't have the heart to take out. This guy having a great time with his dog. Then we're going to go up to Hyde Park for a moment. If you are in the New York area and want a nice day trip to get out of Manhattan, Hyde Park is a great spot to go up to. Easy drive up and back. Inside, very dark. Because this film, oh, there's Roosevelt's grave. Because this film has vinegar syndrome developing, I have to store it separate from any other film because they have found over time that it can actually infect another film as the vapors from a vinegar film get to non-vinegar film. It's just like COVID, it likes to spread. So I've got it sealed in a plastic bag away from the rest of the film. Of all the films I have, luckily, I think that's the only one so far. A bust of the great man. And that's the end of that particular film. So we're going to take a trip from 1948. We're going to jump way up now to the 1964 World's Fair. This next one is a group of Girl Scouts from Leavittsburg, Ohio, going to be taking a trip to the fair. And it's interesting. I tried to go online. There's nothing I could find about Troop 430 from Leavittsburg, Ohio, either online or at newspapers.com. But this film was in sort of bad shape. You can see some of it's very light and everything. But I left the beginning part on of their trip just for personal reminiscing. And this is 1964. They're coming out to New York. In 1967, I took a very similar trip going out to Philmont Scout Ranch with the Boy Scouts. And we had so many the same thing. Our leaders having a corral. In our case, we had 40 rambunctious boys. Here they've got a busload of rambunctious girls. Staying someplace overnight, getting the air mattresses all ready to go. And you can see, it's just kind of like a giant slumber party. So I thought we'd enjoy just some of their fun and games before we get to the fair. In the background, you might hear it's mail delivery time here at the Cotter Mansion. And now we're at the fair. They did a nice job of capturing their views of the fair. So we're first at GM, and there was Alaska, Christian Science. Most of this is going to be pretty well known to folks on the talk, so I won't bother describing each and every pavilion. Everybody remembers the acrobats at Mexico, but they had quite a performance down below. Dancers, mariachi band, fashion shows, all sorts of things. This was another film that was in real tough shape. Luckily with the computer, you can do some amazing stuff these days to try to restore it. The original, not the original, but the version that I'm streaming looks much better than the version you're seeing. I'm looking at a second screen here, and the whole thing of sharing it on Zoom takes it down a notch. I'll be putting it on YouTube shortly, and hopefully the high-def version will look a bit better there. You can tell it's 1965 because they've changed things like the facade here at the Louisiana Pavilion. Earlier from the Skyway, you could see the Canadian Bar Green Buffet. Getting off Small World there. And we're up on the Swiss Skyway, taking a little journey around. Everybody's on one side of the street for some reason. How I wish they would turn that fountain back on. Underground World Home, looking towards the Hall of Science. A lot of people didn't remember that some of the dinosaurs actually moved. Looks like a nice day, doesn't it? This is interior footage from Small World. Just left it in as an example of how hard it is to get good interior footage from back then. Also, people did not often correct for the fact that they needed different filters on the lights if you were using outdoor film being taken indoors. The Girl Scouts were all posing for their big shot under the Unisphere. Then we get a little bit of the fireworks at night. This particular reel had a whole bunch of bad footage in it, bad slices, really dark, grainy footage. At one point, they were filming the ground because they didn't realize the camera was turned on. So I had to take about 8 minutes of footage out of this particular reel. But I left this in to show just how massive the fireworks show were. It was really a fantastic show. And every single night of the fair, this went on. Even when they had money budget issues, they didn't cut back on the show. It was really spectacular. So we've seen lots of still footage, but I thought this movie showing just how massive it was, and the fountains and colors and the rockets and everything going in unison, it was really spectacular. Still remains one of my highlights of the fair was the fireworks show. Lots of views of the luminaires for you fans. Carousel Park. Former's Texas Pavilion, still trying to have a show about Arabian Nights, another non-success. Up, she should get out of the water before the Pinkertons get there. We've left the fair and we're now in New York City. We're in Times Square, the famous Smoking Camel billboard. Look how ornate they did presentations for movies at that particular time. Nedick's, all of a sudden I want an orange juice. We're gonna go back up to the Empire State Building. Chinatown. Ellis Island. And a visit to the United Nations before we head back to Ohio. Anybody who's ever been a chaperone on a field trip can appreciate this. Counting to make sure you're bringing home the same number that you left with. And up to this top of this Empire State Building, we get to see Pan Am, the Chrysler Building. Over at the Hudson River. And finally, they get back home to the end of their fantastic trip to the World's Fair. So I hope you enjoyed the Girl Scouts. I have two quick other reels going through here. We're going to turn it to 1964 for a little quick visit. Vatican Pavilion. That statue's up in Kennebunkport, Maine now. For fans of the ever-present nuns, here you go. Some of the best footage from Gotham Plaza that I've seen. There you go, Wayne. All set to go to the RCA. Golden Girl from Greyhound standing down below, ready to answer questions. And brand spanking new Shea Stadium. Looks like it's configured for football in this particular setting.
Bill, you're a bit faint with music running.
Excuse me?
I said you're a bit faint with the music in the playing. It's a little hard to hear over the music to hear you.
Almost done. Okay, we have one more. This next one was a really tough film to do. It was very, very underexposed, and I almost didn't bother with it. But I was determined to try to punch through with the computer and turn the scanner up to its maximum brightness. This has some really interesting footage up on the mezzanine level of the New York State Pavilion. It also, I enjoyed it because it reaffirmed one of my childhood memories of going to the Belgian village for the first time and feeling kind of ripped off because it turned out it wasn't all open. They charged 100% of the admission fee, but you only got to see about half the village, and you'll see the barricades in there. So we're into late 1964 for this particular one. This footage, for example, in the film was so dark, all I could make out was the woman's kimono, and you couldn't even tell there was staircase there until the computer restored it. The boy's button has a hat on it that says "Blow your top with soda pop." And I've not found any reference on the line to who on earth that slogan might have belonged to. But if anybody, well, you can see there's a scaffold being moved around the village. She's hanging the lights up in the town square there. So the village is just open. Not all the shops are full yet. And you're going to see a barricade across the bridge keeping you from getting into the other half of it. But it was really, after seeing it being built all summer long, to be able to go out and actually wander through it for the first time was a real thrill. There's a barricade across the bridge. You can't go down into the rest of the village just yet. Up on the mezzanine now of the New York State Pavilion. There's a small zoo up there, emphasis on small, but you had a couple birds, peacocks, and things up there. I think they were part of the Sterling Gardens, Sterling Forest exhibit. Blow your top with soda pop. Astral fountain in the background, not rotating that particular day. We end with a performance on the stage at the New York State Pavilion. So let me stop sharing here. And I noticed that although chat was supposed to be turned off, it was actually, I saw numbers flying left and right all over there. So it was working, and hopefully everybody behaved themselves. So I hope folks enjoyed it. If you have comments, things like that, wave and I'll look for you. I'm also going to be looking through the chat. Harold asked, was there an express lane for the nuns to enter the Vatican Pavilion? I remember vaguely a VIP treatment for people. I think if you were a huge donor to the Catholic Church, you probably got to go in ahead of the line. Probably nuns and priests did. But I do remember my dad had worked on getting the Pieta shipped over here, and he used his connections that we did not usually have to wait on those long lines to go in, which was great because my mother made a pilgrimage there every time. So a lot of these pavilions did have a VIP lounge, and I think in this particular case, they had a VIP lane. So like I said, I do have memories of being very impressed with my dad that he could walk us to the front of 3,000 other people. So let me see what other things here. Anybody would like to join in? Just raise your hand, or I think we can unmute you there. I'm going up back in the comments. So Don, did you turn comments back on, or were they on by themselves?
They were on when I went to check. I had my wife log in so I could run a check to see if I could disable comments on demand, and I could. But no, they were on when I checked it for the first time. I don't know what happened.
So much for Zoom's features. Ken Carpenter, apparel allows them to charge more for women's clothes. Very, very good, Ken. Probably nationwide, missing some letters. Yeah, I figured it was something like that. Probably some of the neon went out. The pink tax. Carlos, what year did you do Philmont?
I think it was a year before or after yours. I know we were just a year apart.
You had to be the year before me. We were the last bus trip that did it from Nassau County. So after that, they went out by plane, and I think the bus trip was 50% of the fun. We saw so much of the country.
I wish I could find my pictures from back then.
Oh, I hope you do sometime. Well, let me know if you need them restored. So the real promontory point is here in Utah, and yeah, they still have a big ceremony there, don't they? Do that each year? I know there's a national park there. Oh, COVID stopped it. So hopefully they start it up again. Being a train fan, I'd like to go see it. 3 of the dinosaurs moved: the T-Rex, Triceratops, and Brontosaurus. Yeah, when you see the still pictures, so much of the fair moved. Like, you see thousands of still pictures of Chrysler, but then when you see the movie, you see that the air filter on the top of it turned around, and of course the giant fan spun around, stuff like that. Yeah, there was some good shots of the Luminaires in there. They made you want to go back with a truck and a chainsaw, didn't they? How many feet minutes are there in each particular film, Wayne? What were you asking there?
Excuse me, the Girl Scouts one.
This Girl Scout reel was a 400-foot reel, and it was probably about 350 feet of film on it. And as I mentioned earlier, I had to take out about 8 minutes of stuff where literally somebody was walking through the World's Fair, filming their feet of everybody going by because they didn't realize they had the camera on. There were some other shots where it looked like the scene changes of The Man from U.N.C.L.E. They would do a whip pan. The camera was just moving everywhere. And rather than inducing nausea and vertigo, I took some of that out. So most of the small reels are 50-foot reels. And the 50-foot reels take about between 2 and 3 hours to restore. I first clean them, manually clean them, take out any bad splices that are coming apart. And you can imagine the glue comes apart after 50, 60 years. But I also try to clean them with a chemical called PEC 12 and get off any dirt or grime, put the leader on the front or back if it's needed. And then it takes a couple of these are done with multiple scans so that the dark images are on one scan, the light images are another, and then they're spliced together. Then I try to take out any of the things of people shooting their feet or things like that. A lot of cameras also have the issue that every time they would start or stop the camera, you get a bright flash of light, sort of bright pop. So I take those out. So And then running it through the digital cleaning program and all the rest of it, it takes about 2 to 3 hours to do a 4-minute reel of film. So it takes time, but it can run in the background. I've got another computer behind me that it just cranks away, and you can't believe how much dirt it takes out. Like this last one that I did, I was telling Carol when we were out for a walk, it was incredibly dark, and when you punch up the brightness, unfortunately, it also captures all the dirt. So it took 3 separate runs through 3 separate programs, all determined to take out dirt. But it did a pretty good job of getting it out of there. The black and white films looked like a spider web throughout the entire film, but they do a great thing. They take this image, take that image, take that image, and they see where the dirt pops up or moves around, and it takes it back out pretty much magically. And again, it can take a couple hours to run, but if you just put it on another computer that's not tying up your main one, it cranks away. It does a pretty good job. Yeah, Brett's mentioned the Vatican had more than one line. They had moving sidewalks, and if you were on one, it would take you through it quicker. They would also stop it periodically if they brought people in on wheelchairs, things like that. And I think up at the very top, you pretty much stood there and waited for it as long as you wanted. So anybody else see anything new for the fair for the first time? I got a kick out of the mezzanine level. Most people didn't seem to take too many movies up there, and I got a kick out of the Japanese dancers. I'm hoping to find the schedule for the New York State Pavilion so I can narrow down exactly when that was. But if you looked in the film, they were taking it from the mezzanine level. As they went by the Belgian Village, you could still see some of the buildings still didn't have the roofs on them, so they were working away trying to get it done. Has anybody found out what you can blow your top with soda pop could possibly be from? It's got to be some piece of Americana. I thought maybe somebody would know that was a soda logo from their hometown or something like that.
It might be, Bill, it might be a local, like a regional soda. We had a lot of strange brands in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
It might be something like that. Bill, did you notice there when you entered the first bird that you see when you entered the Belgian village was a shoebill stork?
That wasn't at the Belgian Village. It was at one of the national pavilions, and I was trying desperately to remember which one it was.
Yeah.
Whether it was Sudan or Jordan or one of the others. It wasn't there. I mean, that's the trouble when they go and edit these things. They don't always show up in actual error. But yeah, a shoebill. He evidently during the winter between the 2 seasons of the fair, he and a number of others went out and wintered at the Bronx Zoo.
Yeah. It's a frightening looking bird, but I believe they're gentle.
That's what they say. Yeah, that they're. It looks like he can give you a pretty good nip, but they say that they're pretty low key.
It looks pissed off all the time. Even in 1964.
Hey, he probably wants to be back wherever he came from and not with the noise and the people everybody at the fair coming and giving him a hard time.
And did you find out?
Harold was just saying goodbye, so go ahead, Joey.
Yeah, I think that was the Roosevelt Island Bridge. I don't know if anyone else chimed in on that.
Carlos has his hand up. Carlos, do you know?
I think it's the Triborough Bridge.
No, it's too small.
Yeah.
Triborough is like really, really huge. This is like a cantilever bridge. I know whatever bridge it is, it always would get stuck. But I think it's Roosevelt Island. I'm not sure. That's why I put it in.
Yeah, I wasn't sure either. I was looking at it, and it has a sign about this bridge is X feet above, the water at low tide or high tide or whatever. And yeah. I couldn't quite place it, but it obviously is one that opens. And again, I don't think it's Triborough because that's, as Joey mentioned, that's pretty high up there. And this one definitely had a opening mechanism. But there is a site about bridges of New York City. I'll have to go and see if I can spot it going around it.
Hey, Bill,
Yeah.
I was just fascinated by that one film that you had was that you said you could hardly see anything in it. And then when you restored it, it was beautiful. It's hard to believe that. Yeah, it was so awful. I mean, what a great job.
Yeah, I was really surprised too, Tom. When I first did it, I looked at it and went, oh, boy, that didn't come out real good. It was really very, very dark. And I've never used the scanner on its highest settings because when I have it, it tends to blow everything out. So I figured what I would do is give it a try. And then it did blow out a few spots that I was able to dial back down within software. But I rescanned it, put it on its highest light setting. And then I brought it into, I think the first editor I used on it was Pinnacle Studio 25, and it has a feature in there to brighten things up. So I did that. Then I used a tool called Film 9, which does a really good job of doing the stabilization. So you take out some of the camera shake, and it also has a brightness feature. And I bumped the brightness up on there and adjusted the color. And that came out pretty good. But by now, like I said, it had every bit of dirt had just been blown, amplified so much. I used another thing called Neat Video, which is a great filter you can buy, and it does an amazing job of taking out dirt. It's I think it's about $60, and you can get it as a standalone, or you can get it for plugins for quite a few different programs. And it really takes out noise, dirt, and grain, and does a great job. So I was actually surprised. Like I said, the shot of the woman going up the stairs in the to the Japan Pavilion, in the film now you can see the slats on the railing. And the original one, it was just his face going through this dark mass. So it took about probably 4 hours for the various programs to all crank their way through that and restore it and do it. But again, it's just kind of amazing that what you can do with a computer these days to turn back the time, or not even just turn it back, to take something that was poorly shot back in 1964 and fix it. Ken, you had your hand up? The man that knows all about how do we make things look better than they really do. You're muted, Ken? Well, it doesn't show you muted, but I wasn't hearing you. Nope,
Yeah,
still
I can't
not.
hear it either.
You must have muted on your side somewhere. A rescue mission is in progress.
Bill, while we're waiting for Ken, I did
Hey,
a
sorry
quick
about
look.
that. Can you hear me now?
Oh, there you
Yeah,
go.
we can, Ken.
Okay, that's a problem when you put in headphones that don't actually have a microphone on them. Forgot which set I had. Yes, wanted to let you know, like you did, I tried to Google the phrase "blow your top with soda pop," and like you, of course, I failed, but I was very amused to see Google's opinion of my search. At the bottom, it put down related searches, and it came up with how to be a better parent.
Stop blowing your top, Ken.
Apparently, it's considered poor form.
And Brock, you were saying something?
Yeah, I did a quick look at that. Was it Washington Island Bridge you were talking about? And that came up on Bing Images with two different bridges. One very distinctive kind of raising bridge that was kind of red color, which didn't look like the picture you had at all. But then another one that did look more like the picture you had. So Roosevelt Park, I guess it was. That's what it was.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was very strange because, like I say, they're two very distinctly different bridges. One of them passed, it looks like, across the island from either side with the island in the middle, and the other one looked like it only went to half of it. But they showed a distance picture of the island, and it only showed one bridge going across it. Didn't show this raising bridge, so I don't know what that was, because I put down New York, so it would show that. But anyway, that's what I saw there. It did kind of look like your picture, but I can't remember. The movie was so quick, I'd have to see it again to say, and you could do that, of course, but there was a bridge that looked kind of like what you were seeing there. The framework part of it did, at least.
I was thinking of grabbing a still image out of it and sticking in the Google reverse image and seeing if I could find it. And Richard put a thing in about the bridges of Manhattan side. I'll take a look at that. Beth, I really got a kick out of your comment. Blow your top at Soda Pop. It's going to show up as a trending topic on Google with all of us searching for it at the same time. Yeah, I mean, the button's real prominent. Whatever it was great fun. He was enjoying himself. So anyway, I just thought, you know, I've been having fun restoring these videos. The nice thing about it, again, is it takes a few minutes to scan them, but then it can crank away. The real time consuming stuff is taking out the bad splices and that sort of stuff. But I'm enjoying turning the clock back to 64. The 48 was the oldest one that I've done. And it's the only black and white one that I've done. And again, with the software you have, you can take your spider webs out and your, you know, that sort of stuff. There's software out there which will take out all the scratches and take out all the dirt. And if anybody would like to contribute, it's only about $10,000. So I can set up, if everybody's real interested, I put together a GoFundMe where you just mail me cash and I'll get it. So I think that's going to be on my my to-do list way down the road. I mean, I look at it and go, there's just no way, but it does do some neat stuff. So, and again, I guess that will do us for today, unless anybody has anything else. Again, appreciate everybody joining and hope that the weather is treating everybody. We had rain out here for the last 2 nights. It was a real nice surprise. So tomorrow, Carol and I are going to try to go walking up in the hills and enjoy the wildflowers that are blooming and get out of the city. It won't be quite as spectacular as Beth's background out there, but Glenn, did you get much rain up your way in Santa Clarita last 2 nights?
Just enough to make it wet, but didn't get anything in the rain gauge.
Yeah, we on I guess it was Thursday night. Carol went to bed. A friend of mine texted me that it was you know, pouring at her place 2 miles away, and I said, "Oh, we're not getting anything here, just a little mist." 5 minutes later, bam! Thunder, lightning. It came pouring down. It was great stuff. Tom, you had your hand up?
Sure. Bill, I just wanted to say that if any of you are interested in, you know, going to Promontory Point and seeing all the things here around Salt Lake, you know, we've got more national parks than any other state. We've got, you know, there's a train museum in Ogden by, you know, that's on your way to Promontory Point. There's the Pony Express museum. There's a huge aero museum. It's not as nice as the one in Seattle, but it is really, really nice. We also have a huge dinosaur museum, and you know, I mean, just there's a lot to see here. You know, the mountains are here, and our house is open to any of you that want to, you know, come out here and make this your home base. Even the LDS Church, you know, their main temple is open right now for visitors, which has never happened before. But they had to. I mentioned it in the comments. They had to de-sanctify it so that you know, the heathens could come, you know, work on it. And anyway, yeah, so I mean, we're, you know, a couple weeks, maybe a month might be too long, but you know, we've got 4 extra empty bedrooms, you know, with you know, you have your own bath and all that kind of stuff. So if you brought your family,
Let's get a bus. We can put a big banner
Yeah.
on the side of it. We can get a bunch of air mattresses and start heading out there.
exactly, yeah, we'd have so much fun. And I just want to say, yeah, we had some of the funnest times in our lives with
That'd be great. Is the Dinosaur Museum, is that in Lehigh? Is that the name of the town?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Carol
And
I
there's
put
also one by the University of Utah as well. And I thought that was fantastic until we went and saw the one down in Lehigh. It's called Thanksgiving Point. And it puts the one at the university to shame. I mean, it's just amazing.
As long as
Carol, you
there's
were
no
going to say something?
That's the one we went to, I think.
It is. We took the kids there, and they got a real kick of going into a room and being able to dig for dinosaur bones. You know, they had a section where they have recreated dig and everything, and the kids go in there with shovels, and they really enjoyed it.
The one at the University of Utah has a real one. I mean, they actually bring in tons and tons of rock from dinosaur quarries, and you're digging up. The kids are digging up real bones, you know, not the ones that they just go hide in the sand and stuff down there, but much more technical. Yeah.
If you've got pictures of the Promontory Point or any of the recreations they've done or anything, Tom, we have a bunch of railroad fans on the talk. So if you'd ever like to put something together, please let me know.
Yeah, I've been there. I can't, yeah, I don't really have it. I mean, I haven't been there since, digital photos have
Well, now you
taken
check
over.
your
So I don't, if
you
I
check
had
your
any,
assignment now.
they wouldn't be very good.
All those in favor of sending Tom out to Promontory Point, raise their hand. Sorry,
It's-
Joey, you were saying something?
No, I would go as long as there's no shoebill storks walking the property.
Oh, you're totally safe, Joey, and we'd love to have you. So, yeah, if you want to bring your family out, and you can also go to Yellowstone Park, is right by us. It's not that far to go to Sun Valley or up to Glacier Park.
Wow, sounds
People are
wonderful.
amazed at what a short trip it is. You can go down to the Arches National Park or see the hoodoos of Bryce Canyon, and for the day, and be back at our house that evening. And yeah, I mean, we really are very fortunate.
Yeah.
You can go from Arctic climate to desert climate in less than 45 minutes. The salt flats where they race the land speed records, that's
Wow.
like an hour away about. You can go gamble in
Just
Bendover,
stay
we call
away
it.
from the smelly lake.
Yeah,
The shore of the lake was the worst smell I've ever experienced.
yeah. That lake, the Great Salt Lake, is at an all-time low for 1,200 years.
Mm.
Oh, goodness,
And
when we
that's-
were there, it was low and all the brine on the beach had come up. Yeah, since we were talking about Lehigh, there's our son years ago visiting the museum.
Very cool.
And
I just want to know if you're going to be able to get rid of the no-see-ums before we get there.
I know, huh? No. No. And it's worse now because as the lake recedes, it's exposing a lot of awful chemicals, and they worry about dust ups, and because the lake's been used as a sewer system for hundreds of years, and all the mining and refineries. Yeah, it's really bad. But yeah, but at the same time, there's all those beautiful bird refuges where you can go see something like 6,000 different birds or something like that.
Yeah, actually, if you come into Salt Lake Airport on final approach, sometimes you can see it. Or if you come in the fall, the duck hunters are out and they're hiding in their blinds.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't know that the Great Salt Lake is divided in half by a railroad causeway. And on the north side of the lake is like, I don't know how much more, but it's considerably more concentrated with salt than the south side, because all the fresh water comes into the south side of the lake. And then the north side is the actual Dead Sea that's, doesn't have anything but, precipitation. And then the color is just amazingly different as well. It's this deep, dark, beautiful blue on the north, and then a definitely washed out, faded south of the causeway. But there's a lot going on here, and like I said, if any of you want to come out, we'd love to have you.
it's great. Yeah, Carol and I did that. We went out, went through that area, and as you mentioned, went up to Yellowstone after that and had a really
Yeah.
great trip. So it was fun visit. We stayed with some friends that were just outside of Salt Lake City and Sandy, Utah, and then made the big circle up to Yellowstone. Had a great time.
Now you have better friends.
Great. Well, appreciate everybody joining. I'm not sure what the chat will be next week. Maybe I'll see what movies I can restore between now and then. So you might be looking at Bill Cotter at H8 running around doing something crazy. I've got a bunch of my family movies I have to do. But appreciate everybody joining. And again, if anybody has any of their own movies or anything, you really have something you'd like to do. I did some for Ken Carpenter. I'd be glad to, if you have a roll of your favorite stuff you'd like to see, as long as you're patient for a week or two, let me know and I'll see what I could do to help you out on it. So take care, and we'll look forward to seeing folks next week then.
Thank you, Bill.
All right,
Thanks, Bill.
bye.
See y'all later.